Hey everyone and welcome. This is the next episode of Turn Zero, Drive Home Edition. This is a solo Marvel Snap podcast where I talk about the latest info that you need before you start the first turn of the game while I drive home from work. I'm your host August, and let's drive home. So today I wanted to talk about the future seasons that are coming up for Marvel Snap. We have a patch coming up on Tuesday, so just after the weekend. And in those patches, that's where we usually get the datamines that tell us, what to expect from what's coming up next. In case you didn't know, we actually, thanks to datamines that we get from SnapFan, among other places, we're actually able to tell what the next 5 seasons of Marvel Snap have. Some of the information is more like firm than others. Like we say with datamines, all things are always subject to change. They could always, tweak a few cards, effects, stats, that kind of thing. But the seasons are pretty much set in stone. When we've asked about this, like on the Discord, to Glenn or on the Team Answers, they've basically said that they don't really have much time to move things around, if at all. They start planning seasons out kind of like 6 months in advance. It might even be longer than that. It might be 6 to 8 months, and that's something that's apparent from when you look at like the data mines and see the kind of info that we find there. But yeah, so there's different types of information that we can get, and different ways that it kind of shows us what is coming next. So next month, so the month of December, we have information that shows that it's about the Weapon Plus program, or the Weapon X stuff, like Wolverine related, those kind of mutant stuff there with the adamantium. That's the theme of the next season. So at this point in the data mine, since it's only a month away, we actually have like the cards. We have the card art, we have the stats, we have the abilities, the names. There's basically no way that this could be wrong. So it's pretty firm to know that this is the season. You can, like I said, we have the cards. I don't want to go through all of them, but we do have stuff like the season pass guy is Weapon X himself, so it's Wolverine. We have Chamber, Wild Child, Wade Wilson. These are characters that are associated with the theme. So like we've been getting used to, we've been seeing sort of quote unquote repeat characters, but it lets them give classic characters a new finish, a new flavor. Wolverine, as we come to know it in Marvel Snap, is all about being destroyed over and over again and increasing his power each time. This version of Wolverine, this Weapon X, actually has a different effect completely. It's a 2/1. After one of your other cards is destroyed, +1 power. After every third time, improve this effect by 1. So this is a new ability to Snap. It's going to change the effect of the card the more you do it. So the more times you destroy a card, it counts for you. So it'll count 1, 2, 3, and then after the third one, when you destroy the fourth card, instead of getting +1, you're getting +2. This is kind of interesting for the future of Snap, because I like the idea of that you have abilities that can improve the more you do them, as sort of a way to incentivize you to main deck that specific strategy instead of trying to splash it into something else. It does also show us, among the other card effects, that this season is going to be about destroying and also about discarding. So it really hones in on the flavor of what Wolverine has already established before. Other cards that are interesting that season, I think the big one that everyone is talking about right now is Maverick. So Maverick is a 3/3 activate. Give the next card you play power equal to this card's power. So if you remember older days of Forge, when that was the big guy, when you would play that just to give plus, I think at one point it was even +3. It was the idea of adding power. Maverick does this in a very good way by keeping it on an activate, but also by basing it on his power. So this is another target for those kind of hand buff strategies like we see with Gwenpool, or even cards like Galacta. The idea is that you want to be putting power on this guy as much as you can, so you can set up doubling it by giving more power to something else. Because it doesn't take away the power from Maverick, it just increases the next card you play with it. that I think is the one that's got everybody excited. My personal favorite card for this season that's coming up is going to be Fastball Special. So this is a new skill card. It's depicting the classic team up between Wolverine and Colossus, where Colossus just chucks him as hard as he can, and it's very flavorful because the card itself, it's a 2-cost skill. Destroy your highest power card here to afflict an enemy card here with that much negative power. So you're literally taking your card and throwing it at an opponent's card. Very exciting, very great with stuff like Nimrod specifically. This season, I don't want to go over like every specific card because again, there's, as we know about seasons, there's about 11 cards each, so there's quite a lot to look at. But the abilities could change slightly. The numbers on cards could change. Sometimes we see they're too eager with some effects, so they kind of tone down the power, or maybe make it cost one more, or sometimes cards just completely come out exactly as we see them, and they're more often than not that's how it is. But yeah, after December, so this is like I said, so we have the cards, we have the art, we have everything. In January, this is the season where we have just the names of the cards. So like this is probably a step below having all the information. We don't have much information, except we basically have a confirmation of what the theme of the season is going to be. We usually find this about maybe 3 months before release. So it usually comes in the form of just like, here's a bunch of names that are referenced in the data that we don't have any cards of. It's like, what could this mean? And when you look at 7 or 8 of them together, you're like, yeah, that's a season. Like those are all fit in the same flavor. In this case, for January, the season is based on dragons, like just mythological dragons that are in the Marvel lore. I'll admit this is one that I'm not really familiar with too much in the lore of Marvel. There's specific dragons that I know about, one of the names here is Lockheed, which is Kitty Pryde's pet dragon. We've seen him on a bunch of art for her already on different variants, so it's gonna be cool to get him finally in the game. But let's go through the list here. I can read out all the names of these guys. So this is this is the dragon season for January. Looks like we're gonna have cards for Linley, the new Iron Fist, the Sword of Fushi, which is his specific weapon, the Dragon Lord, the Brand of Xiao Lao the Undying, Dragon Breath, Lockheed, Dragon of the Moon, Majestic Wing Beat, Shang-Chi, Master of the Rings, and then a card for 10 rings and 10 ring upgrade. So there's 2 more. Sorry. Dragon Man and Fing Fang Foom. That's a big one. Fing Fang Foom is a big Iron Man related character. He's a big dragon. This is an exciting one for those kind of classic fans. But it looks like what they're doing is they're taking all dragons, then they kind of mismatch them together, and also giving it a kind of Asian theming with the new Iron Fist and a new Shang-Chi. I wonder, new Shang-Chi is kind of scary, especially since we just got old Menace Shang-Chi nerfed. So now the thought that it's did they nerf that so they can make a new Shang-Chi that's even worse? That's kind of scary. Like we said, we just have names. We don't have abilities or stats or anything on these cards yet, so we don't know what they're gonna do. For all we know, this is a 6-cost, do something crazy, or it could just be a 2-cost value card. We have no idea yet at this point. Some things to look at with names, you can kind of point out at this point, okay, so which ones are characters, which ones are skills, or could this be attached to another character, like there's Shang-Chi, Master of the Rings, but then there's also 2 cards called 10 rings and 10 rings upgrade. So is it the kind of thing that, does he make them? Is it like Kate Bishop or Prowler? Does it just spawn into his hand? Do you have to play it again, or are they skills? Are they arrows like Kate, right? Another thing like that is we see Xiao Lao, but then we also see the Brand of Xiao Lao. So maybe that's a skill that you get after you play the big dragon, or maybe it's a skill that makes the big dragon, kind of like Dormammu. We don't know. So next up, this is where the data mine is. So you're going to see it kind of go, as you go further in time, you get less and less sure of what's coming out. So once you have the card art and the names, the abilities, then you're like, yep, that's happening. And then even when you get just a string of data that says names, you're like, okay, that's the theme of the season. But now this is when we start to get into some kind of like, guessing mode or some kind of theorying. So we don't have any firm information yet on the specific cards, but what we have is titles. That's right, take it in, titles. So those useless titles that you get on the collection track, the things that pop up in every store and every game mode that everyone ignores and is like, why do we have these? They actually have a use. So a lot of times you'll see in a month, in a season, that the titles are themed towards that season. There are a lot of humor and jokey ones, but then there's also ones that are specific, like Marvel references. And so what happens in the datamines is we see that they have ones planned to come out all in kind of a batch on a specific month. So, for example, for February, there is a bunch of them that seem to be themed around Guardians of the Galaxy. Some of them are more obvious than others with that theming. Like there's stuff like, a B-sider, or that's my outlaw name, or outlawed in 84 planets. Like they start to kind of like set like, okay, like you're talking about like space and outlaws. And then there's like just the ones that hit you right over the head that say, I am Groot. So obviously that's a Groot related title. So putting all these together, then you start to get a picture of, okay, so if February has like 9 titles that are all related to Galaxy, space, outlaws, Groot, then there must be some kind of season coming up. What would a season of Guardians of the Galaxy even look like at this point? Because we have like all the ones from the movies. Like you have, Star-Lord, Groot, Gamora, and you really don't want to see a whole season of repeats like that when there isn't even a movie to base it on coming out. So my thought is that this is probably going to be more related to the old original, like from the 60s, 70s Guardians of the Galaxy. If you're familiar with the Guardians movies that we've just gotten over the last, like from the MCU, there are characters that are played by like the older generation, like Sylvester Stallone, and they're not really given much importance, but they are in the background. I think they ran like the original group of Ravagers or something in the second movie. Anyway, those characters are references and homages to like the original Guardians of the Galaxy characters like Starhawk, Bug, Major Victory, Captain Jack Flag. These are just random like names, but if you're familiar with the Guardians lore, these are characters we haven't gotten yet. There's also modern day Guardians that are not in the game, like Moondragon, or like a version of Yondu that, or not Yondu, but what's his name? Kraglin from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. The guy that was always following Yondu around but picks up his arrow after he dies. They can do a card for him. And that also, of course, leaves them open to the possibility of doing repeats of, older cards, right? Like Star-Lord could get a new card, Star-Lord Captain of the Galaxy or something, or maybe even a card for like the ship, right? Like we've seen like, Quinjet as a card. What if we got the Milano as a card? That could be cool. So you can kind of see how like there's a lot of guessing involved in this kind of stage. The best part about like the data mines is seeing like the progression, right? So right now, what we'd be expecting to come up in Tuesday's patch is some more information to either validate this theory or debunk it completely. So we could either get like some new art for some upcoming cards or some new card names, and maybe they're related to the Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe we're totally right, or maybe these titles mean absolutely nothing, and we're going to find out that there was a whole other season coming that we didn't know. That's where kind of some of the fun in this guessing is, but it does give us an idea of what they're working on when you look at these titles grouping. Which leads us to the next month in March. So March season, this one to me, like it's also a month of titles, so we're guessing there. But this one I think has more possibility of being true than the Guardians ones. So these titles, I'll read them off. You can kind of guess the theme as I go. It's pro bono, objection, attorney at law, man without fear, That's right. It seems like they're all related to like law and then like Daredevil, which, Matt Murdock, the lawyer, right? So the reason I think this theme is more possible for March is because that is when the release date for Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is coming. It's coming in March of 2026. So it seems like it's another season where they're basing it around like the MCU flavor. We see they do this mostly with movies, but they have started to do it with some TV shows. We just had What If earlier this year, and then we also just finished Marvel Zombies in October. So a Born Again season would make a lot of sense to me. The problem with this that other people are going to have is that it's going to be a lot of characters that we already have in the game, right? Like, we already have Daredevil. We already have Kingpin. We already have Bullseye. We already have Elektra. And she's not even in Born Again Season 1, right? So it's like, who are you going to make for this season? And so when I was thinking about it, it's probably going to be a lot like the Fantastic Four first steps that we had. So my thought is it's going to be Born Again. Like, we're probably going to see like Daredevil Born Again, maybe Wilson Fisk Born Again, Bullseye Born Again, that kind of thing, to give them new flavor and new abilities that maybe work together, or maybe some kind of thing where it's like leaning more into that seeing a turn before it happens, like we see with Daredevil. Daredevil right now in the game has that whole thing about seeing turn 5 and then before you get to click it, right? So maybe we're going to see a little bit leaning on that, maybe some Supergiant style effects where you make cards stay face down. Who knows? It's exciting though that like we get to see like a glimpse of what's coming. But again, like we'll have to wait for future data mines to kind of prove this right or wrong. After March, that's like the last of like our firm, quote unquote firm information, right? There's no more titles to look at, no more card art or names, but we have some weird things that are in the data that don't really make much sense in this kind of timeline that we do. Normally we kind of get like titles a few months out, then names a few months out, and then cards, and then we can be like, yeah, this is the season. You can see how they're building it. But strangely enough, I think it was in last month's data, or maybe even the month before, there was a whole other card there that with no abilities, no base art, just a variant, but it was a new card, and it makes no sense for any of the themes that we just talked about. So that card is called Rogue and Gambit. So it's another of these like 2-person on 1 card things we saw before with Rocket and Groot. But like we just talked about a bunch of seasons, like for Daredevil and for Weapon X, and none of that has to do with Rogue and Gambit. So it's very strange that would be coming out like anytime soon, or what that one card would even mean. I have a weird theory. It's kind of out there, but we've seen that there was a whole season we had last December based on Marvel Rivals, the video game, the team-based shooter, and they had a whole crossover in season with that. Marvel Rivals just announced literally like this week that the next season for them is going to be focused on Rogue and Gambit and their wedding. So it's weird coincidence in my head. Like this is the kind of thing that makes me perk up and go, oh, what's this? Because it's in the data. Like there is a whole card there. It could not come out. We've seen, once there was a card. What's her name? Firehair? No, not Firehair. I think it was Firestar. She was in the data for a while. We had stats, we had abilities, and it just never came out. This could be another case of that, or this could be a hint of something coming in the future. Maybe this is the April season. Maybe it's somehow related to mutants and to Rogue and Gambit specifically. After that, like the next stuff is just my pure guessing here. July is probably going to be something to do with Spider-Man, Brand New Day, the new movie. December would be Avengers Doomsday, but that's just based on previous habits of Marvel Snap to make seasons based off of other movies. So we got data mines coming in on Tuesday. That's like my exciting part. Like the things about the patches, there isn't really much in them. As for that launches on that day, it's more about what's coming later and coming soon. and the data mines shoring up these theories, or at least showing up new cards. That's going to be the exciting part that I'm waiting for. What I would expect from Tuesday is I would expect card art and names and abilities and release dates for all the dragon related cards, and I would expect maybe some names that are confirming the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. But let me know what you guys think is coming up. Let me know if these theories make any sense. Maybe you guys saw something else in the data mines that I missed. Maybe there's something more concrete that could be taking the place of one of these other theories. But yeah, feel free to let me know. I've just parked. I'm at home, so we're going to close this episode here. And I'll see you guys next time.